أهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام إلى حلقة جديدة من مستقبل الطاقة. هذه عناويننا: خط أنابيب الغاز طاقة سيبيريا 2 يستكمل استدارة روسيا شرقا. وكيف يجعل خط الأنابيب هذا من الصين لاعبا متأرجحا في سوق الغاز العالمي. في بداية سبتمبر الجاري وعلى هامش مؤتمر شنغهاي للتعاون في مدينة تيانجين، اتفق الرئيسان الروسي فلاديمير بوتين والصيني شي جين بينغ على مذكرة ملزمة لإنشاء خط أنابيب الغاز طاقة سيبيريا 2 الذي من المفترض أن ينقل ما يصل إلى 50 مليار متر مكعب سنوياً من الغاز الروسي عبر منغوليا إلى الصين لمدة 30 عاماً. هذا بالإضافة إلى اتفاقات أخرى لرفع سعة خط طاقة سيبيريا 1 من 38 مليار متر مكعب سنوياً إلى 44 مليار، إلى جانب زيادة سعة خط أنبوب الغاز مسار الشرق الأقصى الذي هو تحت الإنشاء حالياً من 10 إلى 12 مليار متر مكعب سنوياً. هذه الاتفاقات مجتمعة ترفع من حجم ما يمكن أن تصدره روسيا من الغاز إلى الصين عبر الأنابيب إلى أكثر من 106 مليار متر مكعب سنوياً عندما تدخل كل هذه القدرات إلى العمل في بداية العقد القادم بعد عام 2030. وهذا يقارن مع ذروة ما كانت تصدره روسيا إلى أوروبا قبل الحرب في أوكرانيا عام 2022 عند 180 مليار متر مكعب سنوياً قبل انهياره تحت ضغوط العقوبات الغربية، حيث صدرت شركة الغاز الوطنية الروسية غازبروم إلى أوروبا العام الماضي 2024 ما وصل إلى 32 مليار متر مكعب سنوياً إلى أوروبا، وما صدرته إلى الصين في نفس الفترة بلغ 31 مليار متر مكعب. تفاصيل الاتفاق حول خط أنابيب طاقة سيبيريا 2 لم تعلن ولا حتى موعد بدء الإنشاءات، ما يعني أنه لم يتم الانتهاء من التفاصيل التجارية بعد، ما يشير إلى أن الجدول الزمني للمشروع سيكون بيد الصين التي سيكون نفوذها قوي في المفاوضات التجارية للمشروع مقارنة بروسيا التي تسعى جاهدة لإعادة توجيه إنتاج الغاز من حقولها غرب سيبيريا من أوروبا نحو الشرق. لكن للمقارنة مع الجدول الزمني لخط أنابيب طاقة سيبيريا 1 فقد تم توقيع العقود في مايو من عام 2014 وتم ضخ أول كميات الغاز في ديسمبر من عام 2019 ووصل الخط إلى طاقته القصوى في ديسمبر من عام 2024. لكن ما يميز خط طاقة سيبيريا 2 هو أن المشروع عبارة عن إنشاء خط للأنابيب فحسب، حيث أن الحقول غرب سيبيريا جاهزة على عكس خط طاقة سيبيريا 1 الذي استوجب أولاً تطوير حقول الغاز شرق سيبيريا لتزويد هذا الخط بالغاز. الملفت مشاهدينا تصريحات الرئيس التنفيذي لغازبروم الذي أشار إلى أن الدفعات مقابل صادرات الغاز عبر الخط 2 سيكون نصفها باليوان الصيني ونصفها بالروبل الروسي، ما يشير إلى تعزيز جهود الصين وروسيا إلى فك ارتباطهما بمنظومة الدولار. خط طاقة سيبيريا 2 يؤمن لروسيا سوقاً كبيرة لغازها تكون بديلة عن السوق الأوروبية التي فقدت معظمها. وبحسب معهد أوكسفورد لدراسات الطاقة فإنه في حال دخلت الخدمة كل هذه الأنابيب وقدراتها فإن حصة الغاز الروسي المنقول عبر الأنابيب قد يحصد نحو 30% من إجمالي الطلب الصيني على الغاز بحلول عام 2035. وإذا ما أضيف إلى هذه الحسبة صادرات الغاز المسال الروسي فإن حصة روسيا قد ترتفع إلى 40%. أما بالنسبة للصين فإن هذا الخط الجديد يعزز من مرونتها ويزيد من الخيارات المتاحة أمامها في أسواق الطاقة، حيث أمنت الصين نفسها بخيار شراء كميات ضخمة من الغاز الروسي بهيكلية سعرية مميزة وتنافسية وبعملات محلية، ما يعطيها قدرة على التحوط من منظومة الدولار التي تهيمن عليها واشنطن من جهة، ومن سوق الغاز المسال وتقلباته الحادة من جهة أخرى. ما يبدو مؤكدا مشاهدينا هو أن طاقة سيبيريا 2 يشير إلى جهوزية كل من الصين وروسيا على تصعيد الصراع الجيوسياسي مع الولايات المتحدة على المدى الطويل. لمناقشة التداعيات الاستراتيجية والتجارية لخط أنابيب الغاز طاقة سيبيريا 2 بين روسيا والصين، استضفت الباحثة في مركز سياسة الطاقة العالمية في جامعة كولومبيا تاتيانا متروفا، وسألتها بداية عن أثر هذا الخط على مشاريع الغاز المسال الأمريكية التي تنتظر قرارات الاستثمار النهائي للمضي قدما بالإنشاء. لنتابع.
Thank you, Nasser, and thank you for inviting me and for great question. Indeed, a power of Siberia 2, even without real contract signed, starts already to change the global LNG market game and all the perceptions of the market players, first of all. Just a little bit of historical perspective. We are now approaching to the third large LNG wave of new projects. The first wave was like 100 BCM, the second wave was 200 BCM, the third wave is 350. So the market is already preparing to a huge gas glut. The prices are supposed to go down to the benefit of the customers, but the competition will be really fierce. And in this very situation, when suddenly the market learns that probably post-2030 there will be additional 50 BCM of pipeline gas from Russia to China to the key growth area, this means that probably certain projects that are now approaching FID will not see the future. They will not become bankable because banks are also investigating the market realities, assessing supply-demand balance, and they will see that it will be extremely difficult to get their money back. So certain projects in the US, first of all, might be put on hold, but also the others struggling to attract financing and to proceed, like in Mozambique, for example. For them, it's really bad news, though, as you've mentioned at the very beginning, there is no real deal at the moment. It's just expectations, but you know how the expectations can affect markets.
Of course, Tatiana, the memorandum, although said to be binding, lacks any details, which means further negotiations are forthcoming. What are the contract parameters that you would be looking for, and who or which party you think has the upper hand on each of those factors?
Well, a short spoiler, China has.
Absolutely.
Obviously, everywhere. Russia desperately needs this project, first of all, for the geopolitical reasons, but also to somehow monetize gas, which became stranded after real termination of relationship with the European countries. So this memorandum, it has the volume, 50 BCM, as you've mentioned. It has the route fixed via Mongolia, and Mongolia has confirmed and is really interested in proceeding with this project. What is missing is, first of all, price, the key parameter. And here, as far as I can see from all the rumors and leakages, you know, it's always very confidential issue. But the key bargaining is between the price, this is price similar to Power of Siberia 1. This is a request from Gazprom. It is oil-linked, but it is actually at the moment the cheapest imported gas that China has. So it is already several times cheaper than the price Gazprom had in Europe. But China is requesting even lower price for the second pipeline. They are actually talking about the price equal to the Russian domestic gas tariff for the industrial consumers, which is about $120 per 1,000 cubic meters. It's like $1.5 per MMBtu. It is extremely low. So somewhere in this range, they will find a balance. The second key parameter is take-or-pay volume. So the volume that a customer is obliged to pay for, whether takes it or not. In normal contracts, in most standard, it's about 80–85%. In this case, China is insisting on just 50% take-or-pay level, which is extremely low, and which means that China would be able to offtake just 25 BCM out of this 50 BCM capacity and keep the rest as an emergency insurance in case if it needs additional gas. But it also means that the period of payback for Russia is becoming much longer. When you cannot predict the load, it's really quite challenging. The third issue is financing. Who will pay for the pipeline construction? Obviously, China will finance the segment on its own territory, but who will pay for the Russian segment? For Power of Siberia 1 and for another pipeline to China from Russia, which is called Far Eastern Route, it is Gazprom, which is paying everything. China refused in 2014 to provide any loans or any advanced payment for this construction. For Power of Siberia 2, there was an indication from Alexei Miller, CEO of Gazprom, that they are discussing these financing issues. What will be the result? I do not know, but it is really important for the project economics, at least for the Russian side. And fourth, last but not least, of course, it's timing. When exactly they are planning to start? Russia was ready back in 2023. They've prepared already all the project documentation, all the permits, everything. But China, as you see, is not in a hurry. It's like postponing the project. And probably, though we are discussing early 2030s, it can go further to the right. It can be postponed for another 5 years, as it happened with Power of Siberia 1, which took 10 years for China to make a final decision and to really start the project. So these four key uncertainties, which means that there is a lot of further tough negotiations.
نتوقف مع فاصل قصير مشاهدينا، نتابع بعده في مستقبل الطاقة. هل طاقة سيبيريا 2 قرار استراتيجي نهائي لبوتين حقا أم تكتيك لتعزيز موقفه التفاوضي مع ترمب؟ أهلا بكم من جديد في هذه الحلقة التي نناقش فيها مبررات وآثار اتفاقية الصين وروسيا لإنشاء خط الغاز طاقة سيبيريا 2. نستكمل المقابلة التي أجريتها مع تاتيانا متروفا الباحثة في مركز سياسة الطاقة العالمية في جامعة كولومبيا، حيث سألتها كيف يمكن لخط الأنابيب هذا عند بدئه العمل أن يجعل من الصين لاعبا متأرجحا في سوق الغاز العالمي. لنتابع.
Excellent question, and it refers to this take-or-pay condition which I've mentioned. So if China will succeed to obtain 50% take-or-pay level, then it means that it will have 25 BCM of flexible capacity. That's a lot. And even without vast underground storages, China will be able to play in the market. It will have this arbitrage between pipeline gas from Russia and LNG all over the world. And if you add to that the fact that during the past few years, Chinese companies have built incredibly efficient trading capacities, both in oil and in gas, that means that they will be able actually to, well, manipulate the market. Yeah, they will have this flexibility. They will be able either to resell LNG cargoes that they do not need, as it was happening back in 2022, or when this undemanded LNG was going to Europe and actually saved Europe from a real gas collapse after Russian gas flows stopped. Or it is happening right now. Yeah, this LNG goes to Europe, the one that China doesn't need, because actually, though, at the very beginning, you've mentioned that China is the biggest and fastest growing LNG consumer in the world. The last year wasn't really good enough. So Chinese LNG imports actually went down. So there are also some concerns about future China's gas demand. And if Chinese buyers are negotiating now with any LNG producer, what they say is, we will have, let's say, $1.52 per MMBtu for Russian gas. So what can you propose us? What is your value proposition in this case? Yeah, so it's a lot of bargaining
Gives them a
power.
lot of leverage, indeed.
Exactly.
Tatiana, let's move from the market implications to the strategic implications. Strategically, vis-a-vis the United States, what does POS2 mean from Russia's standpoint, especially after the overtures from Trump and the Alaska summit between Trump and Putin?
Well, the broader context of all these dances between Putin and Trump is, I think, led by Trump's desire to split China and Russia strategically, because this alliance is really becoming threatening. Russia having not only enormous resources, not only energy, but also materials, minerals, everything, and nuclear weapons, and China with all its economic and military capacity, that already looks like quite a frightening bloc. So agreeing to give some concessions via Ukraine, sanctions, Trump seemed to be hoping to actually attract Putin to the other side. And their Alaska summit, when they've mentioned different Arctic economic cooperation projects and all this stuff, it looked like a signal that probably Putin is turning to the US. But 10 days later, with all these Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit rhetorics, with the military parade, which Putin also attended, and with Power of Siberia 2 memorandum, for me it looks like a clear signal that Putin has chosen China's side at the moment. Maybe he is waiting for additional concessions from the US. Maybe it is like the final word, we will see. But for China, which was very slow to confirm this memorandum, by the way, on the official level, yeah, while Russia immediately started to celebrate, China was not actually confirming for a period. So China definitely leaves some window for further negotiations, both with Russia and with the US. So it's this big trilateral geopolitical game ongoing.
So despite, Tatiana, China having the upper hand on the POS2 negotiations, isn't it safe to say that China also does need Russian gas, given that the US LNG is stuck in that trade war currently taking shape between Washington, D.C. and Beijing. Also, Qatar LNG is susceptible to the Hormuz closures in any future wars on Iran. And furthermore, Australian LNG is not so politically dependable either for China. So does Beijing need to secure the reliability of the Russian piped gas, especially before Putin could be swayed by Trump towards the West with promises of sanctions relief and so on? Do you think this is what finally moved the needle for China on the Power of Siberia 2 pipeline?
Exactly, Nasser. That is our reading. So we were asking ourselves at Columbia, why now? What changed? For so many years, China was actually putting this project on hold, and now suddenly they decided to make quite a significant step, though not final, but still. As you've mentioned, first of all, Iran-Israeli war and this threat of Hormuz closure, it really became quite a wake-up call for Chinese authorities, who were always very much preoccupied by energy security, but now it was so close that they started to reassess reliability of the supplies from the Gulf. Then the US trade war. And again, during the last year, actually, China stopped importing US LNG. They've already basically refused from it. So as I mentioned, there is a lot of LNG around the world forthcoming in the next couple of years. So I think China will be able to replace the US LNG by the other suppliers. But they need an insurance. They need some hedge. And therefore, Power of Siberia 2, though it's not absolutely the must for Chinese gas balance at the moment, it's something like nice to have, just in case, just to be sure that if there is maritime blockade, either in Hormuz or in the China Sea, if anything happens with the pipeline gas, which is going through common border and through Mongolia, you don't expect any big problems. And as the world is becoming more fragmented and confrontational, it seems to be a smart move from China's side. And also don't forget about price. It will be very cheap gas, which will support China's industrial policy and global competitiveness. So China is not losing anything, but it wins quite a lot.
بهذا مشاهدينا نصل إلى ختام هذه الحلقة من مستقبل الطاقة. نلتقي الأسبوع المقبل في نفس الموعد. إلى اللقاء.